Well, that went really fucking well, didn't it? Welcome to episode 159 at Mighty White's podcast. I'm Jack, as always, joined by Casey.
Now then,
That was pretty fucking good.
never in doubt.
Yeah, never in doubt. That's certainly one way of looking at it. In fact, another way of looking at it is to say, well, that was wonderful. A good time had by all. I'm pooped. Yeah, I really should be. Good Lord, what is happening over there? Leeds are staying up. In that part of the country, localized entirely within Legoland. So, yeah, mate, how did that feel?
Stressful. Very, very stressful. Anytime I know we had kind of people in the pub with us providing the early updates on Newcastle, but anytime the score update graphic went on the screen, it was like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah, and that's when we knew we'd have already heard if it was in the Burnley game.
Yeah.
But still, every time it came up,
it was hard, and it was gut wrenching. And then you see it was like Liverpool or concede. You're like, I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, who cares? I mean, I think it said a lot about the amount going on. You know, obviously, 98% of the amount of care was Leeds, Burnley. And then there was like 1% of, you are interested in who wins the league out of Man City and Liverpool. I didn't even realise Scum had got beat by Crystal Palace until about 4 hours later.
It's so inconsequential.
Yeah, because it just didn't matter. Which did make it a little bit annoying that Brighton beat West Ham, because West Ham would have finished 6th instead of Scum, which would have been funny. But, well. Yeah, it was I'll be honest, I have made no secret of the fact that I had no confidence going into this at all. I haven't for weeks and weeks. But they got it done. Like I must admit, my confidence went lower when I saw the team, because
it's a real last throw of the dice is seeing Sam Greenwood playing at centre mid.
Yeah, because it appeared to be a 4-1-4-1, like quite Bielsa-y, with Greenwood and Rodrigo as the eights, Phillips holding, and Rafinha and Harrison did actually play wide properly. Although there was a few points where Greenwood was a bit deeper and it was like he was in centre mid in a 4-2-3-1. But when he played Luis Bate against Chelsea, I thought, even though I was fine with it as a decision because I like him, I thought it seemed a bit of a desperate thing to do. And this was the same. I like Sam Greenwood, but it seemed like a bit of a desperate thing to do, but I thought he did really well.
Yeah, it went surprisingly well, considering it's not a role he's played in the first team at all. To give someone their full debut away from home, relegation on the line. But no, he was definitely in the first half was the better of our central midfielders.
Yeah, I've watched the game back a little bit without the stress, and Phillips was a lot better than we were giving him credit for. He wasn't great by any means, but he wasn't.
Is it because we were shot to death with nerves every time he played a pass?
Yeah, he had a run of about a few minutes where he did it like 3 times. He gave away the ball quite badly in sort of 3 times in about 5 minutes. And that, I think, got in our heads because we're so scared of giving the ball away because we're so used to just giving the ball away. And then, oh my God, it's 4-on-2. And I think that got in our heads a little bit. It wasn't actually as much as it looked.
That's good though, because when I saw like the man of the match graphics and stuff like that, I was like, really, this guy?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely wasn't man of the match or anything, but he was. I am. That's why I wanted to watch a bit of it, like try and watch the game back. One, because I'll be honest, I drank more than I normally do before the game. Although I would say that's because the weird thing with it was I felt stone cold sober until an hour after the game finished, just due to nerves and adrenaline, and then it all hit me at once afterwards. But yeah, that was But it was the way we set up. It seemed to work quite well. It was a bit more Bielsa-y. God, I know that long term this isn't what Marsh is going to do. He will revert to type, but God, having some width helps.
It's almost like that's what the squad was built for.
Yeah,
in many ways, because it was. And yeah, Rafinha gets a lot of joy out on the touchline in less compacted areas where he can then cut inside.
Well, I mean, when you think of the chance, like that Greenwood chance was like a little passing triangle out wide, and we haven't seen that for ages.
The ball into Rodrigo for his chance at the start of the second half came from Rafinha out wide.
Yeah, that was after the cock flick on, wasn't it? Yeah, sort of the other little bit of preparing Leeds fans for Gallows humour was when you saw pre-match, Bamford did get fit in time, and now he's got COVID and he's laid in bed. You're like, oh, come on.
Will I ever play for Leeds again? Oh, I'm afraid your footballing days are over, Patrick. Oh, man.
It's always nice to get more in.
Yeah.
So everyone was sort of, I think generally from what I could tell, the mood got more confident. Literally, once you got past that first minute where your enter nearly fucked up immediately, we did actually look all right. They didn't seem to really press us very much, so we were able to actually keep the ball and play it around a bit. We did some of the stuff.
I did worry when you see Phil Hayes' tweet after the game where it just goes, Leeds to kick off, Brentford corner, it's been 12 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we were very much in the game, and then around the 20th minute, we almost had the perfect minute. Good play from Rodrigo into Harrison. Harrison plays a really good little through ball. Gellart through. Excellent finish. As far as you can tell, in real time, it just looks like a really good goal. And the same minute, Newcastle get a penalty. For the sort of thing, when you just see a defender do something that you can't believe. Cross in, and Nathan Collins just punches the ball.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what he's been really good
as well
lately.
because his reaction was to do it, and they went, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
like there wasn't even a hiding it, because he's just stuck his arm out at a right angle.
Yeah. Callum Wilson scores the pen, so it's 1-0 Newcastle, and then during the celebration of them going 1-0 up, we see that the goal's disallowed, and it is offside, but it's another one of them annoying ones where he's offside because he's leaning.
His feet are actually half a yard onside to the other way,
but his arms just beyond. And it is offside. It's just unfortunate. That's one of them that I'd say that was a good goal from the players on the pitch perspective. That is, even though it wouldn't go on stats and stuff, I'd say that was creating a good chance, good football, good finish. That's a good goal. You're just unfortunate. So you got rest at half sort of goes on. It was fairly nondescript. They had some chances. They had there was the one with the long crossfield ball that on telly everyone thought was going out of play, and then Mbumo's just there.
And then all of a sudden, Junior Firpo's been nutmegged.
Firpo, who, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be able to run round the other side and get there, but the way he set up, I think I could have megged him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got on the end of it, but I could have done the nutmeg. He set up to be nutmegged. Pull back, and can't actually. Was it Jensen tried to chip Melier but tipped it over?
It doesn't matter who it was, does it?
No.
Let's be honest.
No, and then the other chance they had was Liam Cooper suddenly deciding to try and dribble out from defence and just immediately losing the ball.
Yeah,
that was Mbumo again, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Liam Cooper's big touch out of defence, followed by what I thought was going to be Liam Cooper's big red card.
Yeah,
because he goes for that recovering tackle. Unfortunately, it's not a bad tackle. He stays low and everything, but given the nerves and everything, and the amount of times you see a player desperately lunging after a ball they've just lost like that.
Yeah.
I did have that moment of, oh God, this is where the season ends.
Yeah. Luckily, he didn't do that. Instead, he just gave away a gilt-edged chance to Bryden Burmo, who luckily appeared to be having a bad day and just dragged it well wide.
Yeah.
That was
Very
pretty much it.
fortunate.
That was pretty much it for the first half. So half time, we're 0-0. Burnley 0, Newcastle 1. At this point, I checked. Leeds are still odds on to get relegated. We were 8-11. Burnley were even money.
The decision is also made to delay our kick at the start of the second half by a few minutes so that we would start at the same time as Burnley Newcastle as well.
Yeah, because Joe Linton had an injury, hadn't
he? Yeah.
So yeah, the second half, we have the chance you were on about before with Rodrigo. That was, again, he wasn't great, but he added flashes again. But yeah, good, decent chance, hits it low, okay, save. And then they play it back to Raya. Gelhart's chasing him down well. He puts a bit of pressure on, but Raya's got loads of time.
Rafinha, who's 20, 25 yards out, sees the pass coming a mile off.
Yeah, he sets off before a decent amount before he plays it. Raya plays it. 1, it's the wrong pass. 2, he plays it badly. And that gives Rafinha time, gets there, 1-on-1 with keeper. But there is 3 defenders blocking as well. It would have been a difficult finish. So he tries to go around him. Clear foul. No one complains or anything really. Raya's just mad at himself. And Rafinha, it's good. There was for once in my life, I watched back one of those people filming from the crowd things. Because I've watched so many things to do with this game and I'd run out of the things I'd normally watch. And the way that they were describing it was like they're going, this penalty is 150 million quid.
And honestly, the thought of getting relegated because some wankers decided to do the hop, skip, and jump for a penalty run-up. If someone had run up at 60 miles an hour and belted it as hard as they could and hit the post, I can live with that.
I can never live with anyone missing the target on penalty.
Well, no. But in ways to miss penalties, I'd much rather it's someone clattering it as hard as they could than someone, as they might say in Burnley, fannying around.
Yeah. But luckily, Rafinha has, over the times we've seen him take penalties, showed that his fannying around works. Because it does put the keeper off. But I mean, by the time Rafinha strikes that ball into top right corner, Raya is halfway towards the other post.
Yeah.
He's gone so early. And it's an excellent penalty from Rafinha, who I think has more than shown that the people who were saying he doesn't give a shit were wrong.
No, at no point did I ever think he didn't give a shit.
No, I mean
there was definitely a period when he was out of form.
Yeah, he was out of form. There was one game I remember where everyone thought, no, he has down tools here because he really had a bad game, and even I was like, well, that's the first time I've seen that from him. And then someone put up all the Opta stats, and he had the most sprints, most pressures, most tackles in that same game. And they're like, oh no, this is
Villa away.
Yeah, it was one of them like, oh no, this is perception. I am wrong here. So Leeds 1-0 up. We're really now thinking we've got a chance here. 4 minutes later, Callum Wilson, 2-0. No marking, which is excellent to see. He's got the freedom of the penalty area and scores.
He's got the freedom of Leeds as well.
I believe this was at the point where I said on Twitter, we are now at don't fuck this up. We're 1-0 up. Newcastle are 2-0 up. We are sorted.
So Brentford have made all 3 subs.
Yeah.
Christopher Ayer goes down.
Yeah, Christopher Ayer goes off injured. They're down to 10 men. Brentford immediately get way better at football.
I think at this point we've also got Pascal Struijk on.
Yeah, I've got Maxwell Cornet, 69 minutes, pulls one back for Burnley. 71 minutes, I think it was, Struijk on for Gelhardt. We go to a back 5. So we now have a back 5 against 10 men. Wissa puts in a cross, and despite having an extra man and a back 5, Robin Koch's marking 2 at the far post. And when I say marking 2, what I mean is he stood in between and actually marking neither.
Yeah.
And I have now watched it back. The one who's in the middle, who's around the penalty spot, he is with Sam Greenwood, and Sam Greenwood just switches off. And he just
Sam Greenwood has not a clue
Probably because he's basically a striker playing in central midfield.
Yeah, I mean, you can also question quite why we've got so many of our defenders over. Like, I know they originally break down the right-hand side. Because that's the one I think where Phillips puts in a challenge to try and stop it, but they get the advantage from it.
Yeah,
and you just see...
I mean, Cooper won it off Mbermo, but it fell straight back to him.
Yeah,
and then the cross. Now that we've won and it don't matter anymore, it's a really good header from Canos.
That is a fantastic header from Sergi Canos. Just a little bit of curl inside the post. Melier could have turned into Mr. Tickle. I don't think he was saving that.
What do you mean turn into?
Even longer arms.
Yeah, it's a really good header. Sergi Canos, I believe that makes him the 9th player to score home and away versus Leeds this season. We're literally on the way to the game. I was asking Casey the quiz question of who were the 8, and then he did it to make it 9.
Yeah, don't ask me them again. I have forgotten.
I would have to think about it to judge him back up. But yeah, 1-1.
In a completely inconsequential move, he took his shirt off.
Yeah.
But you don't need to remember that. It's not important.
And when he first made the tackle, I hadn't remembered. But yeah, suddenly you're shitting yourself. We're 1-1. Burnley have got back to 2-1. There's 2 separate games where we're 1 goal away from disaster. At this point. But luckily, it was only 2 minutes later. Ball down the right. Rafinha squares up Canos, beats him because, again, Canos is a winger, not a fullback. And Canos just takes him out. Definite second yellow card.
Tries to appeal that it's his first foul.
Yeah, which it was.
He was an effective substitute.
Yeah,
I mean, I had his go because he was their second sub that came on, if I remember rightly. So he might have been on for 15 minutes.
Canos was the second one. He came on in the 63rd minute, and he was sent off in the 80th.
Oh, 17 minutes.
Yeah.
What a game that is.
Yeah.
Goal bonus and fined.
Yeah. When he first made the tackle, I just went, oh, well, that's a booking. And I had forgotten that he just took his shirt off.
I hadn't.
But all the people around me, of course, the person most near me was you, went, he's just got booked.
He's got to go.
And I had completely forgotten about the first yellow card. So Brentford now go down to 9 men. You'd think, right, we can relax a bit now. Brentford immediately, somehow, keep breaking and having men over in attack. When we have a back 5 against 9 men. How the hell did they look so dangerous for the next, 5 minutes?
I was like, we've got a back 5. Like, surely, they only seem to have one up front as well. And I know there was runners. So you're like, how do you get dragged out of position when they have 2 players less?
I mean, one of those breaks was a good enough one that Calvin Phillips just had to take him out and get booked.
Yeah.
Because we were in serious trouble. Once that 5 minutes went by, they did sort of get their heads on straight. And as you should when it's 11v9, they were able to keep the ball. We did get on top after that. We weren't creating chances, really. There were mostly shots from the edge of the box, but we were back in control. They clearly had an eye on what was going on at Burnley. I'd forgotten about the bit until I just saw it back early today, where the false rumour went around Brentford's ground that Burnley had equalised. And they literally, not only did they all start cheering, they let off pyro. Did the Brentford fans?
Yeah, it turned out it was that Man City had gone 2-2 or something like that.
And someone had got round, or someone had just lied because it's funny. I know that's what happened at Anfield. Someone made up a rumour that Coutinho had made it 3-3. So they all went mental as well. And there was the Burnley fan on Twitter that was saying one of the stewards, who I'm guessing was a Leeds fan and on the wind-up, was going round in front of all the Burnley fans,
He
saying
was walking across the front of the stand.
Yeah, saying it's 2-1 Brentford when it was still 1-0.
See, I also saw a Brentford fan today saying, "Christ, I hope we're never in the position Leeds were in because the reception inside our stadium is dreadful." So you do need to keep your radios with you.
It's only this year we started getting enough signal to be able to refresh Twitter during the game.
Yeah.
Which, normally I don't have to do. But I would have done if this had been at Ellen Road. So, yeah. So 10 minutes left. We are now back in control of it a little bit, but you're still terrified. You're sort of watching the game, one eye on the game, one eye on Twitter. On Twitter, it just reads as they've missed a big chance. I have now seen match of the day. Weghorst misses a massive chance for Burnley.
Oh God, it's again, not watching it live is very much for the best because I've only now really looked at, like, I've got the match stats here from that game, and by the end, Burnley have had 12 shots, 5 on target, 52% possession. So the tide had started turning in that game.
Yeah, because they had created nothing by half time.
Yeah, you showed me the shot map, and it was 2 white dots.
Yeah, it was like 0.1 XG. It was like 0.1 XG or something at half time for their whole thing. And I believe that the Weghorst chance that he missed came through as like 60%. So, like, a proper you should score.
He is basically cost them a place in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, no, because I'm not saying it was a bad finish for the other one. I'm just giving all the credit in the world to the best defender in Europe, Tyrone Mings.
A lot of time for Tyrone.
Yeah.
Him and Tyrone Mears as well. All the Tyrones. Put them in there.
Yeah. Later on, Click comes on for Greenwood. I was very surprised at that not being the way it started, but as we've discussed it, and I think it ended up being the right decision. And then, it's still 2-1 Newcastle, but there's almost nothing left. So we're thinking we're probably okay. 94th minute. Some things never change. Awful corner from Rafinha.
Doesn't beat the first man.
Yeah. The first man clears it out. Jack Harrison drives it back in. Deflection. Flies in at the near post. Bedlam. Both in the stadium and in the pub.
Yep. Scenes.
It was, oh God. In terms of a relief, like, it's up there with, like, the epidural not going wrong when Sarah gets birth. In terms of relief.
All right, then.
Because I have faith in doctors. I have no faith in Leeds United.
That is fair.
But when that went in, like, what was you like? Once you you won't have had an immediate thought other than yes. But like once you came to, what was your first sort of reaction?
Blow the whistle! Blow the fucking whistle! Please don't give anyone any time to mess this up.
Did you know what mine was as a Leeds fan?
I was a wreck.
I just immediately thought Rodrigo was in an offside position there. He's going to disallow this. He's going to disallow this for being stood in front of the keeper. And luckily, they then showed a replay from behind that showed he wasn't in front of the keeper.
Yeah.
But I still thought he's going to disallow this somehow.
It was such a good feeling, followed by, please end this now. Like, please don't add on another 2 minutes for the celebrations and everything. And the ref didn't.
No.
It was 5 minutes added on, and we played about 5 minutes 20.
And I believe that literally the celebrations were going on when it got round the pub. Full time, Newcastle have won.
Yeah.
And you were finally able to relax because even Leeds aren't going to concede 2 goals in a minute against 9 men. One, maybe.
I never want to put that to the test. It was, yeah. I think at full time I may have slumped down for a moment.
Yeah. Well, the players did. I mean, they were in bits. Rafinha especially. They couldn't pick him up. He was just so welded to the floor. Jesse Marsh on his back,
Covered
being
in Mark
mobbed.
Jackson and Toshak and whoever else is there.
Yeah. The picture of Rafinha in the stand will be on canvas on Leeds fans' walls for years to come. It was brilliant. I mean, like, it means that, yeah, there was loads of stuff that they've done wrong this season, and it nearly cost them. But they've got a chance to put it right now.
They've nailed it this season.
Yeah, done it on the cheap.
No, I think there was a number of people, obviously, I think, seeing Radrizzani on the pitch as well, who quite rightly could have got angry.
His optics would have been better to not come on.
Yeah,
because the statement he said was one of the first decent bits of PR I've ever seen him do.
Well, it was interesting because he'd been a bit active on Twitter before the game, and all you could think was, shut up, shut up. Oh my God, why don't you shut up? But you know what? Reading the statement back, and I think one of the big issues that I had about the sack the board chance, and whether that's or whether you think that's directed at all of them, whether it was just at Orta or whatever. In the grand scheme of things, yes, that they got this season completely wrong. We have not hounded owners out over much worse things.
Yeah.
Cellino got away with a lot of things.
Yeah. I think it's just because at that point we had accepted being shit.
Yeah,
and we don't now.
And again, it entirely needs the actions to back it up now. But the admission that this was not success, and I think had we had Southampton's season where we were never in the relegation fight, that might well have been success this year. Just the fact that we stayed up and never really got dragged into it.
Yeah, because it's a bit weird. Because in the end, I think we're like 2 points behind Southampton, aren't we? But because they've dropped like a stone,
they were safe last season.
Yeah, they were safe in February, basically, and then have barely won a game.
But now, and this, I think this is something we will go into in a week or so.
We'll probably do some of it now, but there'll be more.
But yeah, it is a case now of making sure they follow up on this and making sure that we don't leave ourselves that vulnerable again.
Well, speaking of following up on this, like 15 minutes after the game, deal agreed for Brendan Aronson. It was $28 million, which yes. I did convert earlier. It was like £22.5 million.
Yeah.
Previously played under Marsh. Obviously, we've talked a bit about him because he was so heavily linked in January. Looked a good player. He seemed more of an 8 in a Bielsa system. It might be one of the sort of wide-ish 10s for Marsh, but could play centre mid as well. But again, that's a good start. Like, I think that seems like a good signing. It seems like someone that makes sense.
I mean, I think if you polled the fan base and asked what position needs strengthening first, I think given the calls were to get a centre midfielder all season,
yeah.
If a winger would have turned up, I think people would have gone, for fuck's sake, lads.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good start. There was also Phil Hay in The Athletic saying we are one of the many teams that are looking at Calvin Ramsey from Aberdeen, the right back. He's very highly rated. He's a bit of an FM wonder kid as well. But everyone wants him. We'll see what happens with that. Like Liverpool want him and things like that. But we've got a bit of previous of getting those sort of deals done. by saying you'll be closer to first. Like, if you're a young right back, it's quite hard to imagine yourself getting in at Liverpool any point in the next 10 years.
No, it's the case for a number of players. I still think I suppose now it's probably almost nailed on that Rafinha is going to go to Barcelona.
Well, that's literally the next note I've got here.
But if you remember before when it was heavily rumoured how much Liverpool wanted him, and you were just saying, like, look, I love Rafinha, but Mohamed Salah's there.
Yeah, he plays in Salah's position.
That's his position. Like, it's.
I suppose he would have been coming in to be what Luis Diaz has been. And Luis Diaz has sewn that up now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Calvin Ramsey one. We'll come on to the last one in that last, because that probably calls for some reckless speculation, so we'll leave that till late.
What's the best kind of speculation?
That probably is Rafinha's last game for Leeds. Now that we're staying up, it isn't impossible. Because with the World Cup being in like November, it isn't impossible that he stays. But I think it's 95% likely that he's going.
No, and fair play to him. It's Champions League football. Barcelona are a decent club.
Yeah, because they still sound like the heavy favourites, don't they? And if that's his last game, good way to go out.
Yeah. And again, like we said, I don't think anyone could accuse him of downing tools or anything like that this season. You look at the way he plays, and I think he genuinely cares. I think you saw the celebrations, both when he scored and at full time. And I think this genuinely meant the world to him that we stayed up this year.
Yeah, it really did seem to. And the other great thing, and yeah, football is about more than money, but money's important to make football successful now. The relegation release clauses can fuck right off now.
Yeah, what was it? The believed to be about 25 million or so. So yeah, it really puts that to bed. Because if we'd have gone down, and I don't think with Calvin Phillips it would knock so much off his value, because I still think that you'd have the English player tax on there essentially. Yeah. But yeah, realistically, with Rafinha, you could well be losing half his fee.
Probably more. Like what did they reckon? Like early to mid 20 million.
Yeah.
Like we really might get 65, 70. Or
at that point, you could be losing like half to 2/3 of his fee that you lose.
It's massive that we get that. Do you now think? Because Craig did say we are staying up. What do you think is needed for next season? We'll sort of half get into that now. We'll more get into it in a week or so, I would think. Do you now think that we keep Calvin Phillips?
I guess it really depends the team that's in for him. With someone like Fernandinho leaving, I don't know, he's not been like the main man at City or anything like that, but he's kind of been almost their go-to holding mid at times. Whether they see Phillips as a long-term replacement in that role, I really think in my heart of hearts he won't go to Manchester United.
No, I can't see that in a million years.
Outside of that, unless something comes from abroad, I'm trying to figure out what, like Liverpool might look at him as a long-term replacement for. I'll say long-term. I know he's 26, but as the sort of replacement for Jordan Henderson at this point.
I'm with you, but I still think the most likely is Man City to replace Fernandinho.
Yeah,
rotate with Rodri.
And I suppose at that point it just becomes a case of what his ambitions are, because clearly, I think he'll be competing for a place in the England team come the World Cup, but it must also be really hard. They've won 4 out of the last 5 Premier Leagues now.
Yeah.
Say whatever you will about what the Premier League has become. Jack Grealish left a lower mid-table team last year and now has a Premier League winners' medal in his first year.
Yeah. I'd say that's one of them. If it was to Man City for an ugin of money, I wouldn't begrudge him it. I think it's fair enough. I'm hoping he stays. But the other thing is as well, if it depends on the amount. I don't necessarily think, because it's not like playing FM where you can go, well, 60 million, I can definitely find 2 belting players.
Mm.
You know, it might transfers go wrong. But if the money is like if the money is sort of 60 million, now that it's Marsh and not Bielsa, I think that's more than he's worth.
Mm.
Just purely as a footballer. Now, there is other things that come with it being that having that homegrown academy lad in there, there's something nice about it. But being pragmatic, if it's that amount of money, I think it's probably the time to sell him.
Yeah.
My only fear is that I don't trust Leeds to do enough with the money. Like Aronson's one of them, but that we might need on top of that another 2 centre mids.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at a case where Click and Forshaw become your 2 substitutes, unless either of them wants to continue playing first team football and thinks they need to move on, which I wouldn't begrudge either of them.
No, but I don't think they would. I think they'd both be okay with being on the bench next season.
Yeah, so it does become a case of looking at that team and thinking, well, if we are going to have 2 central midfielders, it's looking fairly set now that Aronson will be the 8 of the 2 midfielders.
Mm.
But you would need to. Again, you can't bank on it whether Stuart Dallas could come in and be the more defensive of them, but again, if your 3 players that are covering that position are 30, 31, and 30,
yeah,
you need, and Aronson's 21, you probably need to be signing someone about Phillips's age, which I know business-wise isn't the best because that's give or take a central midfielder's peak.
Yeah.
But you can't have a squad that has age gaps like that in positions.
Yeah. Friend of the podcast, Ali, saying that he's agreeing with us, saying he's been with the injury proneness as well. I suppose if he got another bad injury, all of a sudden, yeah, he's still a good player and everything, but that peak value thing has gone.
It's been very unlucky with injuries, as Phillips.
Yeah, that peak value thing, if they are trying to sort of be Leicester, you have to think, what would they do? They'd absolutely sell him now.
Yeah, this is the problem. I mean, I've even said to you, when even playing Football Manager, I do play with the emotional attachment to players. Calvin Phillips is currently captaining my Leeds team at 31. I am less. I'm much more attached to those players than I know you are when you play.
Yeah, I try and be pragmatic.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm attached. Jamie Shackleton's still my backup right back at 26.
Yeah, the first one we've been set is Ali saying Lillian Thuram's son. Marcus Thuram is a good footballer for Mönchengladbach, but might be a bit too wide player for what we need. Unless Lillian Thuram has another son, by the way, just because I don't know for certain. But yeah, the other bit in that Phil Hay article, he said Aronson, Calvin Ramsey, and also looking at an unnamed Premier League centre forward. Do we have any reckless speculation as to who that might be?
Danny Welbeck. It's probably.
I heard he was in Leeds.
That'd be an interesting one because that could still include any of the 3 teams that are going down. I imagine. I don't picture it being someone from Burnley, unless all of a sudden Vidra is going to finally make that jump. But even then, it's not the player I'd want. Similar with.
By the way, I'm just going to say.
Is it Josh Sargent? Are we just getting all the Americans?
Lillian Thuram does have another kid that plays centre midfield that I was unaware of. Plays for Nice. I didn't realise he had two. I will just take Ali's word for it that he's some good because I have no idea. I've never watched him play.
No, I mean, clearly the midfielder we're not signing is Boubacar Kamara, who Villa have snapped up already.
Villa do that, don't they? Like, there was no talk about him signing Danny Ings, and then they just announced it. Same when, admittedly, he's not that great, but same when they signed Callum Chambers. There was no talk of it, and then he was just there.
I think that was embarrassment.
No, this one, at least there was a little bit of talk before it, but they've got it done early. Good player.
No, and I suppose, like, I know it kind of works both ways. I know Dan James became available at the back end of the transfer window. I know Rafinha was a late window signing.
Yeah.
But after the season we've had, we need the semblance of that first team strengthened by the opening day.
We need it early, I think.
Yeah.
Because with they're fucking off to Australia, remember? Before the season starts. You want these in early this year.
Which, moving on, July 14th, away to Brisbane Roar.
Whoa. One of the things with the unnamed Premier League centre forward, Victor Orta has his guys. He's always been like that. He's always looking at the same players. So the first two names that came into my head, Eddie Nketiah, if he doesn't sign a new contract at Arsenal, which I think he will. Che Adams to be the backup to Bamford.
Yeah, and to be honest,
Che Adams would suit Marsh, I think.
I think with a full summer, I think we'll go to the 4-2-2. So I think Che Adams would work up front with Bamford or as a backup, and if they committed to Bamford and Gelhardt for a year.
That's what I was thinking, that he would be like surrogate Bamford and that Gelhardt just gets his chance. And that maybe if there's still interest from Spain, maybe Rodrigo goes back.
Yeah, we had this conversation yesterday. I think I'm not going to defend some of the performances we've seen from Rodrigo and some of his decision-making in recent weeks. I do think he has been unlucky in as much as I don't think he was ever signed to play central midfield nearly as much as he has. I think he was signed to play possibly as a more advanced version of Pablo Hernandez. Maybe closer to Bamford. But yeah, we've had our moments with him. But you couldn't say it's worked.
Now, he's a player that I think is... If he was on your bench every week, you'd say that's a decent squad player. If he's starting every week, you think he ain't good enough.
I think if you had a settled squad and a settled team, and he had time to build a partnership with someone, I think you'd be fine. Because one of the things I've said before about the teams that get promoted are that you look at the players they sign. Typically, most newly promoted clubs aren't signing, and I know they are fringe players, but players on the fringes of the Germany squad, the Spanish national team, and a future Brazilian international. It's not the caliber of player that those clubs typically sign. And one of the things, and again, we'll get into this at a later date and talking about Victor Orta's signings. When you look at it in that regard, I don't think anyone was complaining about Rodrigo, Koch, and Llorente coming in, who were all deemed good enough to play for those national teams.
I would say there was some with Rodrigo. People who'd watched more Spanish football than us.
Do you think that was more to do with the fee that we were paying, or because of him as a player?
It seemed to be more, this is a lot of money for someone who's about to turn 30 and also who's not always been fit and isn't really... But It was people who'd watched a lot more of him than me. But when I first heard, I was like, great, what I've seen of him is good. But so we've already talked about centre mid. So leaving centre mids aside, what should be our priority signings? And when you first look at our first team, who do you think might go out?
The first one, aside from the obvious of Rafinha and possibly Phillips, but in terms of someone to move on, I think for me it's either Firpo or Llorente for me. And I feel horrible saying that about a player that's only been here a year in Firpo, but again, it hasn't worked.
Yeah, but I think both of them come under if there's interest. You're gonna make a lot. You're gonna make a loss on them, but I'm all right. Like we paid 12, 13 for Firpo.
Yeah.
If a team in Spain was willing to give us 7.5, I'd take them. Otherwise, I'm actually all right with Firpo being in the squad. But if it's Firpo, that bumps us needing to buy a left back up to near the top of the list.
Yeah.
Because I'd be all right with him being the backup. Llorente, if we think Cresswell's ready, which I do, to be in the squad, I think it's probably Llorente that'd be the one that goes. Because I don't know if anyone has got more credit from the last 5-6 games than Gelhardt and Robin Koch.
Yeah.
I think Robin Koch's been really good these last few weeks. And he's played, just like in the last 2 months, centre mid, right back, centre back, right wing back in a 5.
Holding mid as well.
Yeah, he's played all over the place and he's been decent in all of them. So yeah, I think Llorente is probably one. And the other one further down the squad, Jamie Shackleton needs to go play football.
Yeah.
For the sake of his career.
Yeah.
He has to go play somewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not gonna. And it's sad that we're talking about this when we're talking about the club needing centre mids, but through injuries and Bielsa's insistence that he sees him as a right back, it's frustrating, especially when it's an academy player. And whether it's a case of loan him out for a year and see how he does getting a full season of Championship football under his belt, and then assess him then. I'd be up for that, but I won't begrudge him if he wanted to move on.
No, because he's not getting a look in at centre mid. He's not going to get a look in. I know that Ailing and Dallas are going to still be injured at the start of next season, by the sounds of it. But I mean, in terms of for right back, 1, sounds like Laftavis Calvin Ramsey. 2, I think he's behind Cody Drammer
and Robin Koch,
and he probably is behind Robin Koch now as well. Like he's not going to play right back, and he's not going to play centre mid. So I think for good of his career, whether it's on loan or permanent, he needs to go.
Yeah. Just quickly as well, I have a list here of the loanees to return. Now, admittedly, I cannot remember who is and isn't out of contract.
I believe this is finally De Bock's last bit. I believe he goes this summer.
But coming back, you've got Edmondson, Temenushkov, McCalmont, De Bock, Bogarts, Casilla, Davis, Capriel, Poveda, Costa. Oh, sorry, Edmondson again, because he came back, didn't he? And then went back out. And Cody Drammer.
Well,
also Josh Galloway and Bobby Camwer as well, apparently.
Yeah. The fact that Josh Galloway's on loan at FC United of Manchester doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume try to move Helder Costa on.
Yeah.
It's another one that hasn't worked.
That might get a chance out of them. Drama. And Leif Davis has a chance purely because we ain't got any left backs.
Yeah. In my head, Alfie McCalmont could walk into this midfield right now. I've seen some things.
Yeah, he's the only one. Those are the only two that I can see really having a chance for two fullbacks. Kiko Casilla, we need to find somewhere for him to bugger off to. Although I do think that on the list of things that we need, I still would like us to sign an experienced number 2 goalkeeper and send Klassen out on loan, maybe.
Yeah. No, it is the issue that when someone like Meslier gets injured, that you are looking at Klassen, who it picked up towards the back end of the 23 season. But you know, if you'd have told me around the time of that Arsenal game, in the under 23s, that Klassen was, you know, we're going to have to play Klassen the next week, I wouldn't have been comfortable.
No, I'd have been terrified.
So, and maybe it is a case that we have to get someone like a Scott Carson in, to, you know, for the bench for the season. But
yeah, like I've seen a load of people all over Twitter today saying, "Go get Nick Pope." No, don't go get. Now Nick Pope's a brilliant goalkeeper, but he's coming in his first choice, and I wouldn't want to.
No,
unless PSG come in, you know, Keylor Navas is going. They need a second choice keeper. Unless they came in and offered a load of money and he's going.
There is no sense at this point, a club at our point in time, having someone like Meslier as a number 2, who already has this amount of Premier League games under the belt. Like, I genuinely think you need to strengthen your defence, and so he is getting the best protection that he can. I do think getting someone in with an experienced goalkeeper who's not been a number 2 all their career. You know, if like a few years ago we'd have been able to get like a Rob Green in or someone like that who has played top level football. Because unfortunately, that's the thing with. I'm just putting aside all the issues with Casilla, but Kiko Casilla has not been a regular first choice goalkeeper for such large chunks of his career.
Yeah.
You know, I'd quite like him to be someone who is 35, 36, but has played the majority of their career as a first.
Yeah.
Joe Hart.
Why would he leave Celtic? He's loving it.
No.
But no, like I said, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nick Pope is a better goalkeeper than Ilan Meslier. He is. But Meslier is our one now, and we need, if we're going to have him, he needs to play. If someone comes in and buys him, then, yeah, by all means, sign Nick Pope. He's 30, he's going to be a rate keeper for a long time. But it's one or the other. You can't get away with both, I don't think.
Yeah.
Any other position on the pitch, you can sign them both and say they'll push each other. And they still will push each other. But I just don't think it'd work. You need one or the other for me.
What's Northern Ireland's Mike Taylor up to? Has he got a return in his locker?
In fact, Ali's just literally said Mez would learn from Pope and they'd push each other. They would, but I think the maximum you're going to get out of that is 1 year before one of them's pissed off and you have to sell them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think. And I think probably in terms of ability, Nick Pope comes out on top.
Yeah, he's a better goalkeeper.
And I think we're in the position that, for goalkeeper anyway, and I know I've said before about wanting to kind of give the young players a more regular chance playing, you know, either starting games here and there and making sure they're making regular sub appearances. But at goalkeeper, you can't, you know, I don't think it's good to chop and change your goalkeeper. And I don't think it does anyone any good. So I genuinely think we have to commit to Ilan Meslier at this point and, like I say, just find whichever experienced former international is available.
It'll be interesting. That will be a very interesting thing this summer, is where does Nick Pope go? Because there isn't a whole load of gaps. Like, Newcastle need a goalkeeper, but it sounds pretty nailed on that they're signing Dean Henderson off Scum.
Yeah. I can't see Villa moving away from Emi Martinez. Hugo Lloris is captain at Spurs, so he's not going to be going anywhere.
I'll tell you what, that wouldn't be the worst idea from
West Ham.
Hugo Lloris is still very good, but he's 35, and I know that Pope's only 5 years younger, but in goalkeeping, that's massive.
I don't whether again you're going to get a year of either one of them.
Oh, I'd just drop Lloris or sell him.
I can't say he's their captain.
Yeah, I don't think Lloris is that good.
Genuine West Ham, that'd be the one.
Oh yeah, they're still flicking between Fabianski and Areola, aren't they? Yeah, West Ham. That makes sense. That's where he'll end up. Now you've said that, that makes it in the same way that they will also sign a striker for a load of money. Kaiserspor.
So sure.
We're nearly at the hour mark, so I'll bring up one more thing just to get us to about an even hour. I know that a lot of them have been in the first team this season anyway, but early thoughts, who are the 23s you think will step up next season?
I would imagine from how this season has gone for him, I do think we see more of Greenwood. Like
Marsh seems to really like him.
Marsh really likes him, and before, after Joffrey had that back injury, I was never sure whether it was Greenwood because Joffrey's not fully fit yet. But the fact he started both of them yesterday does make me think he's got the faith in them. And fair play to the both of them, because over the course of the season, the limited opportunities they've had, Greenwood's got himself a couple of assists and has been involved in goals. Gelhardt has typically done something magical to either win us a game or keep us in a game with about 10 minutes left.
I don't know what the actual numbers are, but goal involvements per minute, Gelhardt will be top by a decent way.
Out of the other ones that have kind of featured, I don't think there'll be that many. If I'm being entirely, Cody Drammer will be the other one that I imagine we'll look at, and it sort of depends on where him and his agent feel.
I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible that he starts the first day next season.
No, and it always felt like Drammer and his agent's issues were more with Bielsa than with the club. But it will depend now on what the interest level is in him and whether Marsh is either, him and Otter have got their eyes on someone in particular, or if they're willing to give him a go. Yeah. I think.
I just wanted to put that on screen from Ali saying Nolan Kenner. I believe his contract's up at end of season, and I haven't heard anything yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him.
See, again, I assume he'd at least be worth a 1 year extension. Just the idea that he was, and I know our squad has been short at times, but the idea that he's been getting on the bench these last few weeks, or pretty much since Marsh got in, has been in and around the squad, to then not be around, I think would be an odd one.
Yeah, but the same happened with Niall Huggins, didn't it?
Yeah.
He got quite close and then got shipped out.
Probably got.
So it might well be on his end. He might be going, look, if I'm not going to get a chance, which would be fair enough. But depending on how many centre mids we sign, there's always a chance for Lewis Bate because he's a good player. I just think he might be a bit physically light for this style of play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. So I think Cresswell is, if you move on one of our central defenders, I think Cresswell becomes your fourth choice. Leo Hjelde could be a backup at left back, I suppose. And I don't think that's his best position. I think you look at him, he is a centre back, but I think the issue is as well, we've done such a good job with actually having an under-23s team that isn't what Football Manager becomes of your reserves while all the good ones go out on loan still.
Yeah.
But there are some of them that I do think need to go get that experience soon.
Yeah. I was about to bring one up where that's true. I believe he's got 1 year left on his contract after this. Unless you're going to push him and have him be replacement Rafinha. Unless you're going to do that, try and get Somerville to sign an extension to his deal. Send him out on loan. because he can't languish in the under-23s for a second longer.
No, and I think one of the things is, even with Rafinha going, off the bat, you've got Harrison and Dan James, who would be sort of your first choice wingers. And I don't think Somerville's as far off those two as it would have been 6 months ago.
In this formation where he wants them narrow, I really like Somerville. I mean, I rated him anyway, but when I've been watching him in the 23s, he seemed to understand it better than any of the wingers who aren't Jack Harrison, who has kind of got his head around it a bit. Like, he was all of his attacking runs and the way he was driving at centre backs. He wasn't driving at full backs.
Yeah,
and I think he could be. I still think he can be an option.
Yeah,
especially now we're going to have 5 subs that you can make off a bench of 9, which is a stupid rule, but take advantage of it.
No, it'd be good to see it again. He clearly has the talent, and again, he is at a point where he does need to say it. Either he needs to be at least coming off the bench regularly, or he needs to be moving on.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened this last few weeks if he wouldn't have got injured. Because he came off bench against Watford, and then was the standout in the next 2 23s games, if I remember rightly. And then was like, he was in a position where he was being talked about, everyone going, this kid is playing really well. And then he did his ankle, and that was...
I'm trying to remember which game it was this season where he came off the bench and he did really well. I'm not trying... Was it Brentford at home or...
That was... He came on against Wolves when we got the late penalty.
It could have been that one.
Because him and Gelhardt both came on and did well. He came on away at Newcastle as well, if I remember rightly, and did quite well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to see Somerville. Either way, I want him to get a new contract and then either get a chance here or somewhere else.
In fact, I've just gone onto the BBC Sport article, and Crescencio Somerville is the first person behind Rodrigo after he scored the penalty. So yeah, it will have been that one, because I think it was him and Gelhardt both came off the bench in that one and did really well.
Yeah, so I'd like to see that. And then obviously, I don't think it'll quite happen this year, but I'm interested to see what happens with Archie Gray next year.
Yeah, get him out on loan. Get him in now somewhere.
The difference is he can play every week in the 23s and not go anywhere.
Yeah, realistically, he's got a couple of years where he can probably do it.
I mean, I don't think he's even allowed to go out on loan yet, is he?
No.
You have to be 17, I think.
Unless we have to transfer him to a different high school or something, and they can now give him permission. But no, there's it. And one of the things I do feel confident about is there is still some talent in the 23s. You know, I think you'll have another year at least of Jack Jenkins been in there. I think Max Dean is.
Yeah, I like Dean.
We all like Max Dean.
And in theory, another one that suits Marsh. With his style and everything. So,
yeah. He's one I would love to see get again, like not at the expense of Gelhardt or anything like that, but I'd love to see him make a couple of appearances. Because he's the sort of striker you'd want on as a fan.
Yeah.
He loves the press.
Yeah, and once he's been here a bit longer and got a bit more used to it, it'll be interesting to see what Matteo Joseph does as well. So yeah,
got all the lads with the big curly hair now.
So yeah, that'll do us for episode 159 My Lads Podcast. I don't know when we'll be back. Week or so. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we suddenly do a Villa and announce 3 signings really early on or something like that. But yeah, this has been a pretty shit season, but it's had a great ending.
It's amazing how bad of a season it's been and how good we can feel about it still. Because I never want to be that person who celebrates a team staying up, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to stay up.
You're supposed to, you dumb motherfucker.
But like I said, what was the stat earlier that we are the first team in 11 years that survived, that started the final day in the relegation zone, that has stayed up.
Yeah.
Those are the stats where normally Leeds are the team in 17th and end up getting relegated. That's normally what happens to us. So it's quite nice to be on the other end of it for a change.
Yeah, to put into perspective how shit we've been this season, because there was a lot of people showing that stat that was because we have not actually been in the bottom three very much this season.
It's probably about 3 weeks in total, isn't it?
Yeah, but we've never been above 15th at any point.
No, I was looking at
that. That's a bad season.
Yeah, I couldn't deal with that. It's been awful. Once you got past the point of once the injured players are back, we'll be fine. Oh god, they keep getting injured.
Injured players are never coming back, lol. So yeah, that will do us. I've enjoyed that. I feel so much better just for everything being done. The stress levels have been too high, and now they're not. So yeah, I've been Jax here.
I'm in Casey. Have a good one.